Hey everyone, this is darkfireslide, back with more of our Europa Universalis 4 introductory campaign as Castile. We are on episode 9 now, so we're getting deeper into the series. A couple of things happened that I didn't notice because all sorts of things were happening, and that's the thing about Europa. A lot of stuff can happen at the same time, but it's okay because a lot of it, takes care of itself. For example, you may recall that in Barcelona there was a stack of 6 ships. Well, whenever you take the province, they get forced out of the port. So they can't just sit there and be safe from your ships. So their 6 ships got forced out against our, strong fleet of 5 heavy warships, 8 light ships, and 7 transports. All of their ships are going to be destroyed. In fact, 4 of them were already destroyed, and we completely missed it. Naval combat is weird. It still does a shock and fire phase, like normal combat, and uses the same die roll system. But rather than using, an actual number of troops in each regiment, you just have the actual boats, and they have health percentages, and I mean, it's not really that different, to be completely honest. But there's never any terrain to worry about, and as well, you have this weird thing called fleet positioning that's based on the size of the ships and the leader, the admiral's maneuver score, as it were. So it's a little bit different, but more or less the same. Have more, but then again, I say that, but it's also dependent on what kind of ships you have. Because if you have nothing but transports, it doesn't matter really how many boats you have, unless you outnumber them by like a 5-to-1 margin or something. It doesn't matter how many transports you have because they're just not that good at fighting. But if you've got, a good mix-up like we've got, we could stand to have a couple of galleys, admittedly, in our navy that would, significantly beef it up. But this composition is, going to be able to stand up against, most things of the same size. Especially if they don't have any heavy warships, since heavy warships are obviously the best. They're the only type of ship that usually costs a noticeable amount of income. If we look here, under the unit production tab, under our naval units, and we look at, the ships, we have the Bark, which is our light ship, starting out. Maintenance of 0.09 ducats a month. So it's like nothing. It's like 0.1 ducats a month. It's pretty small. Galleys are 0.03, which is hilariously cheap, and cogs are 0.04. But heavy ships, the Karak, or the early Karak, is going to cost 0.48, so that's like half a ducat a month. Okay, that's like almost as much as a cavalry unit per month. That's pretty expensive. Especially considering they can't help you take provinces. Well, they can in a way if they blockade ports, but that's beside the point. So yeah, that's the naval situation that's unfolded here. As well, we are now taking Navarra, and the reasons that this is good is because first of all, it's in the mountains, so if they attack us to try to stop us from doing it, they're not in a good position because they're going to be attacking into the mountains, and I believe if they attack from Vizcaya, they're also going to be crossing a river, so the terrain penalties will just be massive. That being said, we're going to unpause the game, let this battle finish. We won. Naval battles generally aren't worth that much war score. We did get 6 prestige out of it, though, which is pretty good. Again, we don't get much tradition if we win, if we have a crushing victory. We don't get much tradition out of that. I guess it's supposed to be the idea of you learn more from your mistakes and your defeats than you do from your success. So, but anyway, we're gonna move these troops or these ships here and begin to blockade these ports as we start to besiege them more. So anyway, our goal now is to try to take Navarra as a vassal. But we'll see how much they are willing to work with us on that. I don't know what this army's doing. I think they're trying to take back Barcelona. Yeah. If we look here under the province, if you ever want to know what a province, what a terrain does, Aragon gains a claim on our province of Soria. That's unfortunate, but it doesn't help them because we're winning the war. Anywho, if you ever want to know what a province does to attackers, defenders, and things like that, if you just click on the province in the province view, just mouse over the portrait up here, and it'll tell you what the terrain is, what the penalty is. Dice roll for attacker -1, which is a big deal. Combat width minus 25%, which is a huge deal. It means that even if you outnumber somebody, you can't really take advantage of it. So you're going to take a lot more casualties as a result, especially with that negative dice roll. But a bonus supply limit and local defensiveness plus 10%, which means the forts are going to be harder to take, basically. But if you look here at the mountains, mountains are really bad because it's a -2. If you're crossing a river, that's another -1. So a -3 for the the attacker, which can just completely negate die rolls sometimes, even cause you to end up with negatives. Combat width -50%, which is even worse than hills. So your any numerical advantage is basically shot at that point. Attrition is increased as well, and the supply limit and local defensiveness is much higher as well. That being said, we look here at the coastline, it just raises the supply limit by 2. There's no penalties for attacking into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to detach for a siege, move our troops to there, detach for a siege, and leave those troops there. Now, say you've got 2 stacks together. To switch between them, you just... Aragon had another 23 ships lying in wait that we did not see, and they managed to take out our fleet. So that's unfortunate for us, but... that's the way it goes. And it's unfortunate that our entire fleet was sunk, because now we're going to have to deal with that, basically, at a later date. But anyway, if you have 2 stacks, you just click to cycle through them. And it'll, go to the one at the top. So, it's not that big of a deal. Now, we've got both of our troops in position here. What we're going to do is we're going to send both of them in. And then we're going to shift move them back to the province we want them to be in. So these 2 troops are going to converge, hopefully at the same date. Remember, we can look here, if we click on the army itself, and see the day that they're actually going to get there. So these guys are going to get there on January 14th in 1450, and these guys are going to get there much sooner at, December 30th. So what we're actually going to do is let this pass for a little bit. Okay, they got there a lot sooner than I expected. Alright, I was looking at the... bit of a hiccup there. But we're going to send in our troops at the last second. And... voila, we have crushed their army. Once again. Unfortunately, we took 6,000 casualties there due to our tactical blunder, shall we say. It looks like they're going to chill out there, so we're going to go ahead and move our army into them again. And we're going to move this army here into Roussillon. Now here, okay, we're going to win the battle instantly. And the reason we won there so quickly is just because of how little morale they had left. If you have no morale, remember, think of it as like a health bar for your entire army. If you have no morale left, your army's going to rout instantly, basically, when it goes into combat, unless you outnumber everyone by such a significant margin that it's not an issue. Now, if we look here, the Naples is actually sending support into the province of Girona here. So we're going to send in... they've only got 3 stacks. And if we move our troops here back into Girona, they're going to call off their attack. Now, I mentioned carpet sieging earlier, and this is what it looks like, generally. We have completely defeated their army and crushed it, and by keeping troops on all of their land, we effectively prevent them from being able to create any more troops. Since this is all technically ours now. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to start taking Murcia here. I see that province, and I switch the I and the C, and I think it says Murica sometimes. Which would be, funny, but at the same time just silly. So, yeah, we're just waiting for these sieges to go past. As a general rule, I like to play at speed 3. It seems to be the most, gentle speed, unless you're just trying to let something happen. Now, this is a really interesting event. We gain 15% local autonomy in every single province. Now, what does that mean? Well, we have this thing in every province called autonomy, and what it does is it lowers the income of a province by the amount of autonomy, but having autonomy lowers unrest. So, that being said, if we got 15% autonomy in every single province, that would really ruin our economy. And it wouldn't, it wouldn't go away for a long time. But if we lose the stability, we can deal with that instantly. However, it is going to cost us 100 administrative power points. So we're actually going to accept this demand because we don't need the money so bad. The manpower hit we're going to take, because it does affect manpower as well. The manpower hit we're going to take is unfortunate because we don't have any men left. Our pool of manpower has run completely dry. But we are going to accept this, unfortunately, mostly because it'll let me show how autonomy actually works. So if we look here at, let's see. I guess it hasn't applied yet. We'll unpause. I guess it's, at 15%, it's not really affecting anything that much. Interesting. I think it has to go on the month. So when the month passes, we will revisit the provinces and look at the effects that autonomy has. Alright, so we're going to pause on the day of, and if we look here, yeah, it lowers tax income by 15% for having 15% autonomy. So our taxation amount just went down by a serious amount. Our economy is not looking so hot anymore. Autonomy goes down by a certain amount every month, depending on how much, that's weird. Our capital changed from Leon to Toledo. I guess that may have been part of the event. I may not have read that because the list was so long. But anyway, yeah, as you can see now, all of our provinces are suffering this. It's also a minus 15% to autonomy to manpower as well. However, well, I guess it also affects production income. It ruins everything for having it. But anyway, we're going to continue this war anyway because we are still winning it. And just because you're out of manpower doesn't mean you can't keep fighting wars. What it means, though, is that if you want to start a... Oh, no, that's interesting. Our force limit went down. Probably because we lost these two provinces. So we're paying more money than we normally would be. So really our economy's not doing that bad if we could still support all these troops. But as I was saying, if you ever get into a rough situation where you're out of manpower and you want your troops to stop reinforcing, and I really mean it when I say that this is like a last, ditch thing. See how all these troops are not, at full strength, and we don't really have the manpower to support it. Like we need 8,000 more troops to reinforce, but we only get 400 a month, or even 200 a month actually. We can do this thing called consolidating regiments, and that's going to merge every regiment together and create full-strength ones, which is helpful not only because it stops it from draining our manpower, but also because in combat, a full-strength regiment is going to fight more effectively than a non-full-strength one. But the reason you don't do it in 90% of cases is because you can just reinforce it and it costs less in the long run than having to rebuild regiments later on. That being said, if you do have to start doing that and consolidating your regiments, you can go to your production interface, and that's about the time that you want to consider recruiting mercenaries. Mercenaries are going to be very expensive, as you can see here. One regiment of Latin medieval infantry, not including the penalty for our force limit being over, compared to our normal infantry, is going to be more than double, because it's basically 0.3 ducats a month for the halberd infantry, and it's going to be 0.74 for the mercenaries of basically the same quality. So mercenaries are kind of a last-ditch thing as well that are going to cost you a lot of money. But if you have the money, you can use it to win wars that you would otherwise lose, simply because you're just out of manpower. As well, because our manpower is now at the maximum, our war exhaustion has risen to a disastrously high level. We don't have any potential rebels at the moment, though, so we're not really particularly worried about it. That will be a different story, however, once the war actually ends. Now we have another peace offer from Aragon. Let's see what they're offering. They will cede Aragon to us, they will pay 56 ducats, and we will gain 3 prestige and suffer 10.1 aggressive expansions. We're not really interested in that, because we just want to take their territory from them. As well, we want to vassalize Navarre, and to do that, we need to take their province. Their single province. That's if we're even... Yeah, we're allowed to do it, because... ironically, they were our ally before this started. Alright, but anyway, we finished the Siege of Navarre. Now, we could do something here called signing a separate peace. And if you ever... And this is more of an advanced tactic, but I'll try to explain it anyway. If you're ever in a large war with a lot of people like this, and you really just want to, get a good negotiation with your actual war target, The best way to do that is to sign separate pieces with all of the other nations involved. So, for example, and really all you have to do that is, first of all, you need to be the war leader. And second of all, you just right-click on their province, open diplomacy, and then sue for peace. Now, we can't fully annex them because they're still in a war. Well, we could. They would accept, because they're just completely and utterly defeated in their country, their nation is in shambles. Now, if we select that, it, cuts all of these out. But we don't want to annex them. And the reason for that is, first of all, they are not the exact same culture as us, so we would take penalties for that. They're only a 3 base tax, so it could be conceivable that we would take that. In fact, let's look at this here. But it's also going to cost us 50 diplomatic power because they're not, part of the original target. But if we vassalize them, we take 4.3 aggressive expansion and get 1.5 prestige. If we annex them, which is going to cost the same amount of diplomatic power, same amount of prestige, 5.7 aggressive expansion, and 12% overextension. But I think for purposes of demonstration, I'm going to vassalize them so that I can kind of explain how vassals work. And going to war and taking vassals can actually be a really good way to take territory later on, and we'll explain that more as we get further into this campaign. So that being said, we're going to send the demand to Navarra. And now Navarra is our vassal, and we'll have to listen to everything we say, lest we, strike down on them with a righteous fury. Now, if we look here, we can start to, glean what we, want to take from this war. Now, they would accept a 44, even though we only have a 37. And if we look here, their occupied and besieged provinces is really starting to get out of hand. But if we look at taking Aragon and Valencia, it's going to cause 21 aggressive expansion and 60% overextension. What that means for us is we're going to, have to, deal with a lot more. And considering how this war is already gone, that might not actually be a bad agreement for us. Can we get any more money out of them? We could. But let's look at and if we could get war reparations. They would actually be willing to accept a 54, even though we only have a 37, because we have beaten them that badly. So we're going to take war reparations from them as well, even though we're the attackers. I think it's weird that you can ask for war reparations from somebody you attacked, but it's in the game and in Art of War, and it's a very useful thing to do. So for the next 10 years, they're going to give us 10% of their income. So we will send the demand. And we can watch the flip there. So it tells you everything we already know. 21.6 aggressive expansion and 9.5 prestige. Hooray. So now we have to deal with the aftermath of our actions here. And if your troops are in foreign territory, you don't necessarily have to ask for military access to get your troops out, but they do suffer this exiled penalty until they return to your own lands. This is true even if they're in foreign land and they return to an ally's territory. They need to go back to your territory to be considered part of your lands once again. Anyway, our war was successful. We are the victors, and we now have 2 lovely new provinces, Aragon and Valencia, both of which are pretty high base tax provinces, so a pretty good gain altogether. Immediately after you do this, and you can do this a number of ways, the first way, you want to start coring these provinces. And now what does it mean to core it? Well, as we kind of explained earlier in the series, coring a province, or a core province of your nation is like, this is Spain. Like, this area, this province is a part of Spain, no questions asked. And you could make provinces part of your, territory, and you can core them by spending administrative points. So that's why it's important that we have administrative points. Now, I believe it costs 20 points per base tax, but here we can see it's going to cost 130. But if you have a claim on the province, which claims usually subside quickly after you take the territory, regardless of the actual timer, but if you have a claim, it's going to reduce the amount of administrative power cost to actually take the province. However, war exhaustion is also going to increase the amount of administrative power. So as you can see, we have a balance here to strike between spending diplomatic power to reduce war exhaustion, and spending administrative power just to get these cored faster. And it is important to get these cored faster because a non-cored province generally will supply 0 to very small amounts of tax. So until a province is cored, it is basically useless. And as well, unrest is going to be a lot higher as well. Specifically because of this little thing here, this overextension penalty. If we look here, we have 60% overextension, which translates to 3 national unrest. So our entire country is now upset with us. And as we can see here, we have a lot of rebels. Now if we mouse over these, the worst offenders seem to be the Catalan patriots, who are in Valencia and Aragon. Strangely enough, they want to defect to Granada, as well as the Bogomalist heretics. Now, rebels have different goals, but we will explain that in the next episode. So, thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in. We finally finished our war with Aragon, and learned a bit about why coring is important and why you do it. But we'll discuss it more in the next episode, so I hope to see you then.